the venue for the community plan. Going to be talking to the Gadsden Airport Authority, pitching the plan. I guess a head-to-head competition, if you want to put it that way. But if you want more information, check out that URL that is on the screen. And we'll give it a few minutes for folks to jump in. As always, scroll ahead. You're rolling my desk.
Sorry, man.
I got the mobile studio inside the tiny room. So
Hit the drop on it there.
Well, how are y'all tonight?
Doing good. Awesome, man.
All right. Well, so glad to have you here. We'll give it a few minutes for folks to jump in. I need a good sound check. If everybody would tell me that you can hear me. And
I got you. Check.
Well, I know you can hear me.
He's talking about the folks.
I don't care if the only people that matter are there, those folks.
It happened. You just be glad that when you said that, I'm so used to having if I've got a microphone in front of me and somebody says that, I just say Jason Wilson, JasonWilson.
Well, how are you guys doing tonight? We did this at lunchtime last week. Hey, Kim Kidd says sounds good. She was sitting in the hot seat over here last week.
Right on.
All nervous, like she didn't know how to talk in front of people, and did a phenomenal job and shared some good insight and good thoughts. Yeah, hold on. I'll get you a wider shot. We got to have this all right. We got such a demanding group of citizens around here.
They've come to expect the best out of you. Is what it is.
All right. Is that better? Danny Starnes. Sorry, the guys decided they want to sit in the lounge chairs, and so I wasn't quite prepared for that, but that's all right. We'll roll with the punches. All right. Hit that share button and tag a friend, and let's get a few more folks on here. So, what have y'all been up to today? Secret squirrel stuff.
A little bit, yeah. We were actually in Fort Payne today, meeting with the mayor and a member of their city council and a couple of local business owners. Their Main Street Alabama group.
All right.
A good friend of mine from here just left and moved there, and we're talking about possibly doing a restaurant brew pub project up there in Fort Payne. So we were up there kind of kicking the tires and walking the streets and seeing lay of the land. Yeah,
I think they got I think the Barones have got a Barones pizza and arcade up there in Fort Payne. So they've got some good stuff going on up there.
Nice little downtown.
Yeah.
Well, and they have such a connection. The Blackstone name specifically is really well known in Fort Payne just because for so many years, people from Fort Payne, if they wanted to go out or come to dinner or something, they come to Gadsden. You know, they hop in the car and head here. So many people are familiar with the Back 40 name and the Blackstone name. And so they've been kind of independently reaching out to Chris and I at different points for years, trying to get us to do something up there. And I think they've got a lot of exciting stuff rolling. And just like so many other, these small, more rural communities, they've got some of this American Rescue funds.
Yeah.
So now a lot of projects that maybe were kind of want-tos, they have the means and the resources to pursue some of them now. So you're seeing that with a lot of these communities around Alabama, you know, saying, hey, this project we talked to you about 5 years ago, you still want to come have a conversation about it, you know?
Well, that's cool. I feel kind of bad. I kind of feel like going to Fort Payne's forever away. So, but it's really not that far.
I graduated from Southside High School, and both my parents still live there, and I feel like Southside's going a long way away for me as a guy that lives
Everybody
in downtown.
Feels that way.
Yeah.
If you're on the mountain, you want to stay on the mountain. If you're in Rainbow City, you want to stay in the
mountain. Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane to think about. But
it is
such a short distance, but we'll stay right here where we're at.
Yeah, I'd spend an hour in the car and between Virginia Beach and Norfolk, Virginia, and going through all that. And you're like, 45 minutes in the car. Here, you're like, 12 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a...
That's a whole 4 miles.
Yeah. Can't deal with that. So
I sat in traffic for 7 minutes. It's like
We're so pampered around here.
and I know he got he's on the bad list now, but Louis C.K., the comedian, does a great bit about that. He's like, people complaining about waiting 4 hours at the airport or something. My plane was delayed 4 hours. And he's like, yeah, but after that, did you get on a metal tube and shoot through the air and land safely on the other side of the country? Like, can you give them a minute?
Yeah. No, yeah. I'd rather be safe.
Yeah,
I'll
for
wait
sure.
4 hours. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll jump in and kind of talk about. Well, I don't know what we're going to talk about tonight, but we're going to start with some business discussions. Talk real quickly about some background. I will say, guys, drop some comments and questions, and we will get those. I want to kind of stay away from the rendering plant. The biggest thing to me, the factor of the discussion of the rendering plant and this is that it's kind of the thing it's the catalyst that brought us to the point that we're sitting here on a Monday night having a conversation. I just met you 5 minutes ago. I've only known you really now for about 10 months.
Yeah.
So
One of the positive things.
yeah, I think that's good, and that's that key word, that positive. I think we need to talk about the good stuff, the good ideas, and encourage folks to listen to those ideas as we roll into election season, and keep that kind of stuff on the forefront of their minds as they listen to guys talk about what they're passionate about and what ideas they're going to bring to elected positions. So guys, yeah, drop some questions in, some ideas. I'm going to start with. So, Jason, what are you up to today? I know everybody knows you with Back 40 in the background, and everybody's been keeping a keen eye on you at city council meetings over the last couple of months. But what are you up to these days?
A lot. I, like
You got some lawnmower project going on, right?
Yeah. I've been working on a gutter cleaning system, automated lawnmowers. No, it's been fun, man. You do something for so long. I mean, I found it back 12 years ago, and I kind of looked around one day, and my COO, Trip Collins, had been with me for all 12 of those years, basically, and our brewmaster had been there 10 years, and our sales director had been there 10 years, and I'd kind of created my own demise a little bit. I was quickly turning into one of those guys that just sat in the office and scrolled message boards about football and stuff like that. And anybody who knows me knows that's not really my personality. So we'd brought in another CEO as part of an equity deal, and I worked side by side with him for about a year and a half, and finally it was time. It was time for me to kind of jump out there and see what else was going on, and so that's exactly what I did. And now I'm working with the Auburn University new Venture Accelerator down on campus. Really, really cool $100 million facility they just built in the Auburn Research Park, where they house young startup businesses, primarily Auburn students. So I'm doing some coaching and mentoring with those guys, just
Awesome.
trying to help them learn how to not make the same mistakes I did over the years as a young entrepreneur, and help them get ready for these big pitch competitions. That's a big thing now these days, and it's something we actually tried. We had the Google startup pitch competition here as part of our program with the Etowah Gadsden Chamber, their entrepreneurship and innovation committee that I was chairing. Were lined up to do an Alabama Google Techstars pitch competition. It was going to be awesome. And then COVID struck and everything kind of got put on the back burner. But anyway, so I helped those guys with that. I'm working with the Small Business Development Center of Alabama, doing some consulting work for startup businesses that reach out to them. I've got Chris and I, and well, really it's our wives project, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
But we're opening a new project down on the river inside of River Rocks Campground that's called Current Market in Delhi.
All right.
So you'll be able to access it even if you're not a camper in the campground, but it'll essentially serve as a market in Delhi for the campground. And again, it's located on the main channel of the Coosa River, so we'll have some boat docks and boat slips out there. So there'll be a place to come grab a burger or a Blackstone pizza and a drink, or you can grab a 6-pack to go. So it'll function as a full
To consume safely on your boat.
Correct. With someone else driving who's not consuming alcohol.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's fun. Hopefully we'll have that up and going. Obviously, again, that was a project that took 18 months, and we're still waiting on certain pieces of equipment to show up that got delayed. And
What? How are we having trouble getting stuff these days? No,
yeah,
it's crazy.
So
all right.
we get a lot of questions about when our opening day is, and I try to tell people that entrepreneurs don't think that way.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know when the opening day is. I just know that we're closer today than we were yesterday, and not as close as we'll be tomorrow.
Well, if it's a lot of that equipment, if it's anything like what we're seeing, well, I mean, in any other industry, but the boat industry,
yeah,
it's, hey, when are you going to get this? I really have no idea when this
Yeah.
stuff's coming.
I
But,
can't tell
they
you.
can tell me a date, but I don't believe it,
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny, speaking of the boat
you'll be
industry,
open when you're open.
speaking of the boat industry, that's one of the things that we are really excited about exploring over there. Is we're going to try to do a little boat food truck, if you will, a little
All
floating food truck
All right.
concept on the water. So we need to get that tri-tune order in soon, I guess. But I do expect to get the employee discount over there too.
Oh,
man.
I don't know.
Man, those things
Man.
are expensive.
Man, things are tight. Yeah, it's nuts. When you talk to Mary and Tony Lumpkin that have owned that place for about 30 years now, and Tony's been in the boat business his entire life.
Yeah.
Never even heard anything like what's going on now.
Yeah.
So, and you hear that in so many other industries.
What's happening in the RV world too?
Yep.
Heck, it's happening in the housing market right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pretty unprecedented shortage.
Well, so Chris Robinson, Blackstone, and what other stuff have you got going on these days?
Well, I mean, we just had Blackstone since 2002, and been doing that, building that thing up year by year. Just opened up last year on Knuckle Mountain, right across the street from the falls. Put a little pizza kitchen up there. It's doing well. We're going to have our 1-year anniversary next week, so I'm happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're getting our courtyard like we like it downtown, and just serving up pizzas and serving up good food and trying to have a good time.
All right, and I'll officially put it out there that you are indeed running for the seat again.
Yes, I'm going to run for District 7.
District 7. Okay, just so everybody has context as we're having this, the discussion.
Exclusive news.
If people tell me this, if people ask me this throughout the whole time, I've always.
But
said
I
yes,
like
I'm
that. Yeah, I like what you said earlier before we got on here, that you're always,
right.
you feel like you're the best man for the job, and
Well, we'll see.
we'll see.
yeah.
All right.
We the first term we went out, I just kind of put it out there, get my name out, and I had a good, didn't put too much into it, and had good voter turnout. And then last term we went head to head with the incumbent, Mr. Reed, and fell just a little short. So,
Yeah.
Looking forward to this next time.
All right. So, and we'll get this also out of the way. For or against the rendering plant?
Like I said earlier, all my businesses have signs in them that say "Stop the rendering plant." My home says "Stop the rendering plant." It's just, I wish we just got, in my opinion, we have to start thinking a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start thinking a little differently. If we keep bringing stuff like that in here, we're going to continue bringing stuff like that in here.
Right.
And other good stuff's not going to come in here.
And you've been
Yes,
pretty vocal for a while.
Yeah, I continue to oppose the rendering plant. It just doesn't. I understand the value of the poultry industry, obviously, in this community. It has a tremendous economic impact, but it's like the resolution that I introduced that was tabled indefinitely by my colleagues on the council. You have to recognize that even the best of industrial projects, if they are not zoned correctly and licensed correctly, can be a major nuisance on a community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, to me, yes, I understand the concerns about the smell and the trucks and everything, but for me, looking at it from kind of a long view, I just have seen no evidence that this is a good company that you want in your community. I mean, a lot of people try to talk about OSHA fines and OSHA this and OSHA that, But you also have to realize there are SEC fines, there are Department of Justice fines, there are a whole lot of different fines out there that a company can receive.
Pleading guilty to bribing local officials.
And so and another thing that people don't realize is you see even the Department of Justice fines against Pilgrim's Pride. I think it was, 130 million or something that they got hit with, but that was part of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act deal they had with the nation of Brazil. The total fines against Pilgrim's Pride for that project was $2.1 billion. The Department of Justice got $127 million. The Brazilian government got $1.4 billion. And before the deal could even be struck with Pilgrim's Pride and JBS, they had to agree to give some $400 million to local charitable organizations in the nation of Brazil. So it wasn't just a $120 million fine. Oh, everybody gets those. It was $2 billion. I mean, these guys just, like I said, there's not a lot of evidence that they're very good dudes. So that's what drives me is, like Chris said, I think we just got to start thinking differently. I'm not against heavy industrial projects in this community. And I certainly think we have to support the ones that are already here. But to really think about changing the future of this community in the long term, you got to have some pretty radical changes in the way we approach things.
All right. Well, so that's a good segue in, and I know, I mean, you've been talking about a lot of this stuff. I will definitely say through this entire process, you're one of the most thoughtful folks that I've seen in thinking through a lot of different stuff, not to take away from others that have good ideas and have correct ideas, but I can just really tell that you spend a lot of time thinking. And I don't know, maybe that's what you've been doing in your office for the last couple of years, between scrolling football scores. But so let's just go wide. If you were king for a day in Etowah County, like what would we be doing? What do you think would be the best thing for us?
Well, look, I do like to think about. I'm creative in my thought process. Yeah, I've learned over the years to accept that compliment. I used to be kind of weird about it, but I am. I've realized I do approach things a little differently than the average person. But also, what I've been doing over all these years is traveling and being engaged in the Alabama Travel Council. And my wife and I traveled 15,000 miles this year in COVID. I mean, we went all the way to Los Angeles and back, Washington D.C. and back. Key West and back. And I mean, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of communities that we drive through and hang out and go see their downtown or go check out their waterfront. So it's not just me sitting in a corner going, if I were king, this is what I think it should look like. I'm bringing things that I've seen be successful in other communities that I know could be successful in this community. And a lot of those things are tourism-based economic efforts. Again, I don't think we should totally abandon industrial development as an economic growth, path.
Right.
But at the same time, I've seen communities make the transformation that I'm talking about to a tourism-based economy. It's like anywhere else. I mean, nobody ever notices. Your spouse doesn't notice when you lose 20 pounds really, because she sees you every day and it's not really that big of a deal. But then you see a buddy that you haven't seen in a year on the street and they go, oh my gosh. I feel like we're kind of the same way about our approach to economic development here. We're surrounded by all this natural beauty and all this opportunity to develop our waterways and to build this tourism-based economy, but none of us really believe that we can do it. It's funny. One of the things you and I talked about offline, just on the side, concerning the boat industry, was the idea of a water taxi that could, make a loop up and down the Coosa River, all the way from Southside, downtown Gadsden and back. And, probably one of the biggest frustrations for me, and Chris and I have talked about this, and I'll let him comment, but, I get really frustrated to see how much people in this community tend to depend on government for economic development. Everybody says, we need to develop our river. We need this. We need more stuff for kids to do here. Well, do it. You know, get a group of friends together and do it. And speaking of the water taxi, I was literally on Boat Trader last night. You can find one of these water taxis, 25, 30 grand. You're telling me you couldn't get 7, 8 buddies together and everybody pitch in 2 or 3 grand and get a water taxi going? You could do it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And I just think that if we can spark a level of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit in this community where people stop thinking that somebody else is going to do it. Like Chris and I, you know, people talk about developing the river all the time. What do? We went down here and struck up some harebrained idea with the owner of an RV park and said, hey, let us take your arts and crafts building and turn it into a restaurant on the river. You know, that's the type of creativity that I think that we can succeed and benefit from.
Now, not to get too down into the ugly weeds, but, you know, I don't disagree with you at all. One of the issues that I hear consistently is the challenges of the guy that wants to be on, you know, whether it's, you know, starting, you know, to mow lawns, plumbers, you know, any of those trades, you know, it's actually pretty difficult to do. I was talking with a friend.
It's difficult to do by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, just in terms of the governmental structure around here, and the way, you know, from the number of licenses that you've got to go through to deal with, and I was talking to an HVAC friend of mine the other day that, you know, just the challenges. I mean, just flat out saying, I don't really want to do business in the city of Gadsden because it's so hard to build anything.
Yeah,
and I know.
I mean, I hear you, but a little bit of that's piling on too. Every city has business code that you have to follow. Every city has signage rules. Every city has business licenses and privileged fees. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and my goal is 100% to make things as easy as possible.
Right.
But, you know, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he talks a lot about resources versus being resourceful. And you're right, it is incredibly hard to do by yourself. But when you realize the way this community is set up, I mean, you have so many resources at Gadsden State. You have Lisa Osborne at Gadsden Commercial Development. You have Kay Moore at Downtown Gadsden Inc. You have all of these different components that are there. You've got Heather New at the Chamber. You know, you can go have one meeting with Heather New at the Chamber. And I'm sorry, Heather, if a bunch of people call you because of this, and she can tell you how to get your business license, how to set up your tax file, how to, you know, she can give you a checklist. So, you know, Tony Robbins says it this way: don't tell me you have to have resources to be successful. Yes, different people have different realities, but some of the most successful people in the world started out with nothing.
Right.
They started out with zero. You don't have to have resources to be successful, but you do have to be resourceful. You have to know where to go to get the help that you need. Right. I mean, y'all, I started my first business by calling my buddy who was an attorney and telling him straight up, right out of the gate, I need you to help me build this LLC, and I don't have the money to pay you. Like, I'm not going to be able to pay you.
That's a fun conversation.
It's actually really fun when you realize, when you stop being afraid of failure and afraid of rejection, and you go, look, man, I've got this exciting idea, and you have a specific set of skills that can help me get this thing off the ground. Will you help me? I'll pay you eventually. I just can't pay you right now because I'm trying to bootstrap this thing. Gotcha. Heck, Christy Knowles, in my history, there's been times when I've come to Christy and said, Christy, we're trying to do this project or something, you know, years ago. And she'd say, okay, I'll help you draw the paperwork up, you know, and then we'll figure that out later. And so that's my point, is you got to change the mentality, I think, of a lot of that, because if you're looking for a reason why you can't do it, you'll find one.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Chris, so same thing. You're king for the day.
I just see it. People that know me know I'm like a beautification guy. I'm a landscape guy. I want things to look a certain way.
Okay.
I'm small like that. I know that's not all the answers, but I'm big on the quality of life for our citizens.
Right.
You know, you look at these mountain bike trails, these hiking trails up Knuckle Falls that they put in. It's just amazing. It's amazing how many people are up there every day, every week, every weekend. And it's just the traffic, you know, and that's what we're talking about. Maybe we just need to think about doing small steps. Like maybe we need to add bike path lanes, and maybe we need to add more hiking trails. Maybe we need to add more stuff on the water that's for our community. Maybe we need to go out to all our parks, the ones on the outside, and get them back to where they need to be. walking trails, jogging trails. I mean, well, we have an active community. I mean, I love it. You go up and down the mountain, you see people with kayaks on their cars, mountain bikes on their cars. The Barbarian Challenge, that brought like tons of people.
Right.
And that's what we don't really understand. We don't look, I mean, go for the home run pitch or whatever, but like little things like that, the bass tournaments, the softball tournaments.
I love the bass tournaments.
Yeah, the bass. I mean,
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah.
But all that brings, people are eating our restaurants, they're staying in our hotels, they're doing things and baby steps, and therefore you'd create the snowball effect. You know what I mean? Then that would just start working. And then maybe, and even if somebody's coming here, a new CEO, his management, his staff, whatever, his family, they want to come to a community that has this stuff already in place.
Okay. Well, let me, so as we talk about the environment that we live in, and one thing I've been thinking about, for a while, just being a guy that's kind of really internet focused, and that's really what I do. Social media, e-commerce, all of that kind of stuff. And I think COVID just took everything to an exponential level, and I'm kind of curious about the overnight impact of realities that have been set into businesses. And I think specifically of, that software engineer that's living in Birmingham because he doesn't want to be too far from the shop that he's got to go into every day, the company to work. But he longs to get up here and go fishing or whatever it is, go mountain biking. Every Friday he's making the drive up here. Well, what happens when, now all of a sudden remote working is totally a thing? And are we in a position as a community to attract those, those high paying jobs, which,
it's so funny you mentioned that. I was talking to my buddy Wes Sutton the other day about this because, there's been some pretty high profile home sales in downtown, in the historic district where I live. And I'll be honest, I called my friend Wes and said, Wes, dude, do I need to sell my house? These numbers are crazy. This is nuts. I've been living here for 11 years, but holy cow. At some point, everything's for sale. And I said, do you think this is a bubble? You think these housing prices are about to correct? And he said, Jason, of course, I don't know that. Or if I did, I'd be in Las Vegas right now, not selling real estate. But he said, I will tell you this. I am selling a disproportionate amount of homes to people who are moving here from outside of Etowah County, and the overwhelming majority of them are exactly what you just described. These people that used to have to go in the office 5 days a week, so they would live in Birmingham. But now their businesses have told them, hey, you only have to come in the office 1 day or 2 days a week. And now they're like, I'm willing to commute 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And now I can move to Gadsden and or Rainbow City or anywhere in Etowah County and get twice the home that I can afford in Birmingham. And so he said, I don't think this market's going away. I think we are just being absorbed into some more of these, regional, large metro areas because of COVID has changed the work schedule. And I mean, not to beat a dead horse here, but that's why I scream so much about a tourism-based economy. You're talking about there are a lot of people out there that can work from home now permanently. It's not a temporary thing.
Right.
They are home workers now, and they want to go somewhere where it's quiet and it's peaceful and there's a great quality of life and a low cost of living and high-speed internet, and it's almost as simple as that.
Well, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting shift, and something that I hope that community leaders all over are grasping. The world it was already changing rapidly, and I think COVID has definitely made us change exponentially quicker.
I think it's one of the most exciting opportunities for rural and mid-market communities all over America. And I said that same thing. It's funny, I'm a glutton for punishment. I started the brewery in the middle of the recession of 2009, and now we're starting a restaurant coming out of COVID. But the same thing was true.
Hey, people got to eat.
Yeah. But the same thing was true back in 2008, 2009. I always said that. I think that housing collapse was probably the single best thing that happened to Main Street small towns all over America, because so many kids were like me. When I left Gadsden and went to Auburn, I was never coming back. I didn't want to come back to Gadsden. There was nothing really here for me to do. I didn't want to be a third generation Goodyear tire builder. I wanted to do something different. And so And then I was fortunate. I didn't lose my job. I decided to start a business and ended up moving back. But when COVID happened, all these other people that have been out there working successful jobs, whose parents may be on that shoe store or that business on Broad Street, that those kids didn't want to have anything to do with that business. Now all of a sudden they lose their job in New York or Chicago, and they come back to Gadsden and they look at that shoe store and go, well, wait a minute. You know, maybe I can launch a website and do 80% of my revenue out the back door here and just have this nice little cozy storefront. Yeah. And they start reimagining the business model. And all of a sudden it looked like something they did want to do. I mean, I know of no less than a dozen business owners in this community that moved back here during 08, 09, during that recession to take over second generation of family business ownership or whatever. So I think it's a good thing.
You start shipping pizzas.
It's a plan.
Yeah. Did you ever see that video I made a few years ago at Back 40 where we got the drone and we were delivering beer across the parking lot to Blackstone, and we were working on trying to get the pizza that would come back on the return?
I haven't seen that video. I need to go look that up. But that's totally doable.
That's the next step, man.
Yeah. We get some guys with some Part 107. I think,
you got the contacts.
We definitely, that's how you deliver them on the water. I don't know. The insurance, I think, would be.
I don't know if you just have this little party barge with a bunch of drones that are just constantly launching out.
We figure that out and sell that off to Amazon.
There you go.
We're golden.
Yeah,
we got great airspace for that. Mm-hmm. So let's talk afterwards. No, that's. I'll have to check that out. For sure.
See, this is how it works. Right. Michael, you sit around long enough, you're going to be up to your eyeballs in some new startup with us.
All right. So somebody asked what...
I don't think you believe your story. I mean, it really was going to happen. And we were...
No, I believe. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey,
they building little landing spots.
They've done that with...
Domino's is actually...
Yeah, well, so they actually did organ transplants. Was some stuff they've done in a major metropolitan city that, you know, it shaves the time down, and they, you know, take an organ and put it in a, you know,
that's a little too much responsibility for me. I'll stick to beer and pizza. You know, if that crashes in the river, there's not a lot of consequences.
All right. Well, we'll talk with Dr. Pirani and see what we can work out there. So, all right. So question on what do you see as some of the most significant types of businesses that would enhance local growth potential?
The biggest problem, I can tell you, I can answer that one quick. I mean, we have an industrial development authority. We have a commercial development authority. We have a downtown Gadsden development, you know, DGI. We don't have a residential development authority. We have a housing issue, an affordable housing issue in Etowah County. We do not have affordable housing. You know, Chris and I went to a Barons game yesterday for a friend's birthday. And, you know, we were just sitting there looking at all of those apartment complexes that are built around that baseball field. You can see over into the field at Regents Park there. There's nothing like that in Gadsden. We do not have a proper urban live, work, play development type thing. And to an extension of that, again, to circle back around on the tourism-based economy, you know, go to a place like Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, if you close your eyes and go to Blue Ridge, it's not that hard to envision that here in Gadsden. I mean, they have cabins all over their mountainsides, all over the place, and they stay packed. When I worked in Atlanta at Georgia Pacific, man, I would watch all these executives count the clock until 5 o'clock on Friday. And you know where they were going? They were going to Lake Martin, Lake Lanier, Blue Ridge, Georgia, as fast as they could. Yeah. Every single one of them owned a cabin. And we're within a 3-hour radius of Nashville, Chattanooga, Atlanta, Huntsville, Birmingham. We could fill up every single log cabin that could be built. Another thing, I got to go on a trip one time down to Louisiana, and this was like way down in the bathtub. I mean, like below New Orleans in one of those parishes. And it was a fishing trip. It was a redfish fishing trip.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Simple little fish camp. There's just a row of one-bedroom houses right there. You got 5 boats out there. These guys are paying $375 a night to come stay in this simple little one-bedroom studio apartment and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get on a boat and have a guy take them out and catch redfish for half a day.
Yep.
And then come back in and they're done by lunch.
I hear it's a blast.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you right now, people would pay that same amount of money to come fish our bass or fish our crappie, You know, that's how you build a tourism-based economy. You, like we were just talking about, you look at that Bassmaster Elite tournament out there, you look at some mornings I'll drive across that Broad Street Bridge at 7 in the morning. There's 200 competitive fishermen launching out of there. If you don't think people would come here with a group of their buddies on a trip and rent out 10 little rooms at a fish camp, and now you got local fishermen that are serving as the guides. They're getting paid $150 a trip, plus they're getting tipped out at the end of the trip.
Yep.
So now they're getting paid $350, $400 just for every day for a half day's work to go out on the boat and do what they love anyway.
Yeah.
So
no, that's
housing to me is the answer to that question. Housing.
All right. Well, let's let's shift to the mountain, because obviously the mountain, Nakalua Falls, one of our big attractions that we've got here, and I can't remember the name of the group that came in. Shoot, I guess now it was 2019. They came in and did a quick. They were here for about a week and did a, took a lot of input and a lot of feedback. And I was there when they kind of presented their
Design idea. Alabama.
Design Alabama.
Yeah.
And very interesting thoughts. They pointed out a lot of great things about the Nakalua area that. We've taken our beautiful attraction and surrounded it in pavement. Yes. We've encouraged people to drive, 45 plus miles an hour right past it. Yeah. Like what are we missing up there? Like
we're missing it totally. It's not done right at all. I mean, it should be like a little Gatlinburg, a little Mentone. It's got to, like you say, we got to slow it down, slow the traffic down. Everything up there should look like a cabin, like you're in the woods. I mean, there should be 3-story townhome cabins up there on one side where you can rent them out and check out that sunset and go for a mountain bike ride if you wanted to. The campground is not in good shape up there. It needs some love. Just when you get off the interstate, the signage is bad. I mean, just the landscaping. I mean, I talk about my lamp poles. The whole thing needs to look a certain way. I mean, they do a great job. Nakalua Falls itself is beautiful. I mean, they did a great job with that one side. The Christmas, the lights are awesome.
Right.
A lot of people, but then again, all those people come up there and there's nowhere to park. I mean, but I'm not saying we got to build more parking. We just have to take the parking we have and make it a little more efficient.
Well, has there been any more traction out of that? Those guys. I mean, obviously COVID
waiting for me to get there.
Waiting for you to get there. All right.
It's somewhere up there, right? It's got to be somewhere up there.
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
Well, and guys, if y'all don't know, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, then I don't know if we can dig up if they recorded any of that but they basically had a couple architects. They were not here to do a deep dive, to do big analysis. They just took a lot of input and a lot of observation.
It went from the interstate exit all the way to the red light there at 12th and Meagan, and it was to the point to where they were doing murals on old buildings, better signage, better landscaping. That bridge up there going across Nakalua Falls is actually just to me, I call it an interstate bridge. It's just a normal bridge. It needs to look more of the part of a small community. It needs to be a little more accessible for people running and walking and jogging. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good ideas, and and they weren't saying, "Hey, here's the ideas, take them, and this is what you got to do with it." It was just ideas, just brainstorming.
Right.
There was some stuff I thought that's a good idea, but I'd rather it look like this, or that's a good idea, but what about this? And that's what something other groups I guess would get together when it finally got to the point of pulling the trigger on something like that. But yeah.
So that what kind of, as I listened to all of that, this question that somebody asked, I think is very pertinent to okay, so yeah, we can develop the falls in that area. The question is there any possibility of consolidating economic development activities for all of Etowah County into a single entity? Something that might look like, Etowah Council of Governments or whatever you might want to call. And I correlate the two because, yeah, it'd be great to beautify Nakalula, but we're too small for that even tinier of a section to not consider all of the other surrounding areas as you look at development. And the only way you can do that is actually, working together. And I know that's been a big topic of conversation through this entire last 10 months.
Well, even before I got elected to city council, I was talking about the idea of municipal government. And actually, you saw some other candidates that I think don't really share that desire for municipal government. But that's the technical term for what you're describing. Like a good example would be somewhere like Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, where they're sharing 2 states have given up land. And so there you have wards, and those wards have mayors, and those mayors all sit on a municipal council.
Funny enough, I think we have someone in town that lives here that has some experience of being a part of running Washington, D.C.
You're correct. But anyway, there's a lot of other communities that are in our situation. Make no mistake about it, though. I do want to put blame where blame is due here. This is the result of decades of us not working together.
Right.
This is not about 7 people that got elected to one city council. At some point, Southside spun off and said, we're going to go do our own thing over here. At some point, Rainbow City spun off, and Glencoe and Etowah and Hokes Bluff. And, at some point that all happened. None of us were around or responsible for it
right
then, but that's what we're undoing. We are untying a really big knot.
Yeah.
It's doable, and I agree with you. It's the ideal way to do it. Again, the term being municipal form of government. This idea that we could all coexist as multiple municipalities. But the fact is, every single one of these communities around here, and I know Gadsden takes the lion's share of it on our shoulders, but every single one of these cities around here fights for tax dollars amongst each other. Rainbow City recruits over Gadsden and Etowah, and Southside's trying to get the next restaurant there over Rainbow City. I mean, so we have to be real about that.
Yep.
And we do have an MPO. For those people that don't know what that is, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. That is the closest step we've got to what you're talking about. But the way we utilize it primarily in the county right now is for large-scale purchases. So, for example, if we're negotiating paving projects,
right,
we'll actually all meet together as representatives from each community, and we bid out these large-scale paving projects so that we can get economies of scale on the asphalt and the labor costs associated with it and stuff. But beyond that, that's the end of our collaboration with one another. Now, having said that, too, the Industrial Development Authority, the IDA, was originally designed to be this collaborative thing that, and if you talk to David Hooks today, he'll tell you, Jason, I've been here 3 years, and 2 of the projects that have actually come to Gadsden that I was a part of, we didn't build them in the city of Gadsden. One of them was in Rainbow City, one of them was in Etowah. So his perspective certainly is that we're doing that. We are representing all of Etowah County, but I agree with you that it's not as effective as anybody would like it to be.
Well, I mean, we can get to that. I mean, and I guess this is the military guy in me that looks at that approach, and I just go, there's no surprise if one guy in one municipality gets to appoint, a board, and then that board hires somebody, and then we pay them, and they go off. I mean, to me, I guess the biggest thing is that leaves it to a personality, and we're a country where we've built systems of governments for checks and balances. That
I couldn't agree more, and I'll be the first one to admit that I did not know the organizational structure of the IDA when I took office. I knew what they did.
Right.
I knew that we gave them funding. I did not realize that they were not a government agency. They are a third-party nonprofit that the city contracts to represent our interest in industrial recruitment. And I couldn't agree more. I did not know that. I'll take the blame for not knowing that and being asleep on the job. But you're far from alone. I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, well, I had no idea. Because Gadsden Commercial Development is a city agency, DGI is a city agency. All of these other commercial and retail development entities that we have are city agencies. So it was never clear to me that the IDA was different.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, I would say we're years away from, maybe even a generation away from getting to the point of like a consolidated or unified governmental. I mean, like you said, we're I don't know if I'd say undoing, but it just is what it is. Like we are where we are, and now we've got to take where we are and figure out where we want to go. And that, as you talk about where to go, the master plan concept
Well,
of
that's
some
what I was,
kind,
yeah, that's what I was about to say. I mean, it's funny again, and I only say this stuff so people, it gives some credence or credibility to what I'm sharing. But when I served on the BCA board of directors for several years for the Business Council of Alabama, I mean, these are some of the most successful business leaders in the state, and a lot of municipalities are involved. I go to the Government and Economic Development Institute course at Auburn University every year during the summer, and all this is not a great puzzle that we have to figure out. It has been figured out.
Right.
We just have to do it.
Right.
We get a master plan, we put it together, and then there are no surprises. There are no, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Is it in the plan or is it not in the plan? When somebody says, oh, that's, prime example, as elected officials, I get frustrated a lot of times because people yell at me, why didn't the city do this? And I say, we are doing that. We do this every week on Thursdays right here. And somebody's response naturally is, well, I've never heard anything else heard anything about it. Well, I didn't know that was happening. Well, I don't know how to fix that to make sure that every single person knows about everything that's going on.
Gotcha.
But if you have a master plan and it's out there and everybody can access it, they can look at it. And if somebody says we need to do the sidewalk from this street to this street because there needs to be a place for kids to walk there, we can go, it's on the master plan. It's item number 7. Here are the 6 items that are in front of it. And as soon as those are done, we'll do that. And everybody goes, okay, great.
Well, and not only from the citizens' perspective, as we're talking about growing and developing to bring more business in. I mean, as business owners, I mean, particularly if you're looking at a whole different community, I mean, if you can grab a plan and go, this is where this community is going, that at least has got to make it a little more comfortable of, yeah, I'm going to make an investment into this.
Correct. You better believe it.
And so, are you, what do you think is going through a business, whether it's a small business or, I mean, especially the larger businesses as they look at Etowah County and coming in here, is it a big question mark of, what?
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, when Chris and I go and visit these other communities that have reached out to us about doing restaurant projects there, it's one of the first questions he asks. Do you have a master plan? Can I see it? So I can tell you firsthand, it matters to us a lot.
So how did the master plan look for Etowah County when you started up Blackstone?
No master plan when I started Blackstone. We just got in there and did it. I mean, downtown I remember I tell a story. There was a time where I could drive by Broad Street and however many cars were out there after 5 were in Blackstone, and that's how far back we go. And then and everything started coming to us. Jefferson's came, and then other restaurants come, and here they are. And now you create this scene down there, and that's what we have. I mean, any major city you go to, any suburb you go to, it's a scene. It's where restaurants and businesses are clustered, so people can get in their car, they can park, and they can walk. If we're on a wait, then hey, let's go get some chicken wings at Jefferson's. Jefferson's on a wait, hey, let's go get some pizza at Blackstone. If that's on, let's go to Trey Regazzi's. It just all kind of works out. Hey, I've never eaten there before. What is that? I always just come here to Trey Regazzi's. Oh, it's Blackstone. You've never had their pizza? It's good. You should try it. We'll try it next time. Yeah, that's how that works. I mean, it's kind of common sense, but the brewery's right there. I mean, and everything kind of just works out. The 500 block. So our downtown is unbelievable right now.
I think it's been cool. It's pretty much, I guess it's been in the development and growth here, since I've really lived here full time.
Great shops.
Yeah. I mean, it's been cool to see, and I was here down, for First Friday, which honestly, maybe I shouldn't admit, but my first Fridays have really been since we've been involved with all of this stuff. It's one of those, back to the earlier conversation. It's so far. I'm in Rainbow City.
You live a whole 12 minutes away.
And you got to find parking. Yeah. But no, it's cool to see. And obviously, not everybody's necessarily going to be into that downtown scene, but it all works together. As a community. So. Let me see. I don't know about that bombshell occupational tax discussion. Maybe we'll save that for
Mr. Corey and I have had that conversation a few times, if that's who I think it is.
Man, spot on. Spot on. yeah, that I don't know. I don't know if it's worth getting into all that bombshell, because I know that's going to go on and on over the coming months. Um, let's see here. We really need a new vision and need to make this county grow. When you see these surrounding places growing big time, we can do the same. I think that is a kind of a good summary of kind of the last few minutes as we've been talking. And
I
I think
agree,
it's a
but
good point.
yeah, I
Um,
do too. But going back to the previous point about a master plan, I learned as an entrepreneur the hard way, honestly, and I've talked to hundreds of other business owners over the years that have more experience than I do that have shared this same thing with me. And I say this a lot. Growth for the sake of growth is a bad thing. You
right.
don't just grow because that's what you think you're supposed to do. There are a lot of communities out there that fight really hard not to grow.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think we need more jobs in Gadsden per se or Etowah County. I think we need better jobs
Yeah.
in Etowah County. I think we need a better quality of life, not necessarily a bigger quality of life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves is, just because some giant 4,000 job mega industrial development wants to come here, imagine being so proud of who you are and where you're from that you go, nah, we're good. Actually, we got a good thing going here. Everybody's happy. The roads are paved. That's my goal. That's what, when I close my eyes, I see an Etowah County where all the roads are paved and all the grass is cut and everybody's enjoying the waterways and they're having, we don't have all these infrastructure issues. And then at that point, maybe we start talking about growth. And again, it goes back to that master plan.
Yeah.
You don't just grow for the sake of growth. You have to be growing towards something, towards a goal. And that's how you grow, in my opinion.
I wonder if we could build a NASCAR track on that mega site. No, I'm totally kidding. Don't want to derail and everybody get mad at the. But
Well,
yeah, I mean that what you're saying is part of my frustrations. As a newbie in the area. I mean, since I've lived here full time, everybody's just so down on Etowah County, and it'll never change. It'll never change.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and I think something that this has really brought forth is, there's a lot of us, I'm sort of paying attention, but I'm doing my own thing. And then all of a sudden, bam, this rendering plant thing makes me go, ooh, and I listen to you guys that, well, you've been paying attention.
yeah.
Early on you were, well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, glad y'all are here.
We're glad to be here. But the reality is that if we don't stay engaged, and if we don't change the mindset that, yeah, we are better than what we've got. We can go out there. This isn't, I mean, we've got cool things going on in Etowah County. It cracks me up that people would be so down on, what we've got, around here, and, just taking that. And if you got that attitude, then I'd say, stay off social media,
Right.
Close your windows and, stay home and, order in. But there's a lot of other folks that don't share that idea at all. And I think this is, that's been one of the things that I've enjoyed seeing through all of this. If I could actually say I've enjoyed any of it, because it's definitely been, interesting. But yeah, that
I agree.
the
I mean,
growth and the attitude.
You got to change the mindset around here, and we got to get people liking this city. I said this the other day at a council meeting. How on earth do we expect to recruit people here if we can't even get the people who live here to like it here? If the people who live here don't even like it here, how in the world are we going to convince somebody else to come here? So I think you got to start with your citizens, and we've got to fix that first. We've got to build a community back that's been kind of ripped apart little by little over the years. And it's funny, Chris and I don't share a lot of the same global political opinions. I mean, we kind of sit on different sides of the middle,
Right.
on a lot of issues. But he's my best friend, man, and we hang out together. We're opening businesses
Ooh,
together.
in 2021
Uh,
America,
yeah.
you gotta be careful with
I
that
know.
now.
Well, it's just because, like, I told somebody the other day, everybody likes to talk about going back to how things were in the good old days. Well, the one thing I remember about the good old days was you didn't talk about religion and politics unless you were sitting at the dinner table with your family. And now everybody is engaged. It's a full contact sport. You make your opinions known. We all have these megaphones that we can use to blast our personal opinions. And you know, that's one thing that I really do value about my working relationship with Chris is we just don't let that stuff get to us. We talk about the stuff that we do agree on. We talk about the stuff that we are both passionate about. We focus on that, and we try to get stuff accomplished. And I think some larger scale of that has to overtake this community.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, one of the reasons that I've invested as much time as I have into this whole thing is we're not solving national problems I mean, like, we're a long way. We got some big issues. But, you know, particularly going back to the beginning of COVID, my neighbor's out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Let's start with, hey, I got a roll I can spare.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, what are we going to do? I mean, let's have that conversation about, well, we got local restaurants that they can't get people in. You know, we got, you know, the guys like Adam Swan that's going, oh, I'll grab a guitar and do some lives and bring some attention. That's just like, it's our neighbors,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, like, it's not, we don't need to worry about solving these big problems. Do we need to repave some roads? Do we need to fix some flooding issues? You know, is the trash going to get picked up? I know, you know, that's a fun one, you know, from the city council side, but you know, local politics, I've had a number of folks since we've gotten in there, oh, stay out of politics. And, you know, I've kind of, I've been pretty pointed to say that we do have in this rendering plant thing, I feel like we've got a lot of people that are politicians playing politics with a bunch of us that are not politicians, because it's just about,
Right.
like, I just don't think about it like, oh, I'm involved in politics.
Yeah.
You know, because it's local. You know, yeah. What can we do to help a local restaurant succeed?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, I can set everything else aside, and you know, and it's amazing how much you can really agree on when you get down to that level of detail. So, yeah, but yeah, that's definitely, it's tough to have those conversations. So,
I'm excited. I think this next election cycle in Gadsden's going to either bring a lot of hope or be the last nail in the coffin for a lot of people in this community, one way or another, maybe myself included. But I'm excited. I mean, the city of Gadsden's never had this opportunity. You're talking about multiple city council seats flipping at the same time, potentially.
right.
A new mayor, new revenue director, new economic development director. I mean, this city has had functionally basically two mayors since we went on the mayor council form of government ever. I mean, technically three. There was one guy that did one term right at the beginning and then lost, and then we've had two guys since then. And so this city, and that's not a bash at any of our former leadership. I'm not trying to go down that road. But what I will say is this city has never experienced the opportunity that it's about to have in the next election cycle. We've always seen maybe one council person, one seat flip, you know, one in, one out.
Right.
But the majority was always the same. The leadership was always the same. The infrastructure and the department heads were always the same. So it really didn't matter if you had one face coming in there or out of there. I'm one of 7 votes. But you're talking about potentially having a
Right.
really meaningful shift in the leadership of this community. So it's a big election.
Yeah, I think, and we've talked some about that. I think that is something that I can't harp on enough, that people need to pay attention. I know a lot of it, for most people, just don't want to care, and I totally get that. You know, they're looking forward to football season, right? That's what they want. They want to get off work. They want to, you know, okay, who's Alabama playing? Who's Auburn playing this weekend? That's what they want to worry about. And I totally get that. You know, politics is definitely not, I mean, it's not for most, you know, and it's tough to stay engaged, and especially as busy as, you know, the world is today.
Yeah.
But man, this definitely seems like, if you ever had a time to have a slight attention span, to pay attention, to do some digging, to ask some questions, to listen to, you know, silly things like 3 guys sit around and, you know, talk on a Facebook Live. This is the year for our citizens to really pay attention, because it's going to be a pretty dramatic.
Yeah, and it's way easier to bring look, like anything else. Use football, for example. if you're a huge Alabama football fan or an Auburn football fan, you didn't just wake up one day and have that. You worked really hard. You educated yourself. You learned all the roster and you know all the coaches and where the players came from, and you're watching the recruiting trail to see who's picking up what, and you're watching all the games and analyzing their performance. Politics is no different. As a local citizen, you have some level of responsibility, and it's easiest to change the world where you live. You know, the old saying is a successful country is contingent on successful states. Successful states are contingent on successful cities. Successful cities are contingent on successful communities. And successful communities are contingent on successful relationships with neighbors. You know, it starts in your neighborhood. Like you said, my neighbor doesn't have a roll of toilet paper. I'm going to take him one. That's how you start it, not at the top down.
Right.
You know, we spend so much time looking at the top up here, but we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about what we could do tomorrow. I mean, I've been so impressed by some of these people that have come to city council meetings and come every week now. And you know what? Every single one of them at some point goes, oh, I didn't know that worked that way. Or, oh, okay, I didn't realize I just have to call this person and they'll go do that. And they're getting stuff done in their communities. I mean, every day. Mr. Larry Suttles is a great example. He came up there, and the first time he ever came up there, and the guy's, 7 foot and 300 pounds, very intimidating guy, and he's got a very deep, raspy voice that carries across the room. And he gets up there and starts screaming and pounding the podium, and, da, 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 da. And at the end of the meeting, I went over there and talked to him, and I said, look, I want to introduce you to Heath Williamson. He was talking about some of the drainage problems. Well, Heath has been able to take care of half a dozen of the drainage problems that Mr. Suttles had in this community just by working with him, just by calling him and forming a relationship with him and realizing that Heath actually is trying to do what he can to fix the problem with limited resources. And now all of a sudden, Larry still comes up there and gives us the business every week, but he understands more about how things work and what it takes to get things done in this community. Knowing who to call is half of it.
Well, I mean, and to the point earlier, with all of that said, and understanding the way the government works, and everybody screaming about the government, the government needs to get jobs. Mm-hmm. We're so reliant on the IDA to get the great white hope of big look, that's just silliness.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I've worked for the federal government now for my entire adult life, whether on active duty or as a reservist. Trust me, like we're okay at doing some national defense stuff, but I want the government to not. No, we're good. I don't need the government starting restaurants. I don't need the government,
exactly
figuring out a water taxi system.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's my thing, and I think that you got to be careful because, of course, municipalities, and elected officials do have to make strategic investments with taxpayer dollars that
Absolutely.
are going to help growth.
Yep.
But one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about, well, even the IDA and even the Commercial Development Authority, when we announced the deal with the tax abatement with Olive Garden, everybody said, what are y'all doing going out there giving tax abatements to these corporations when Trey Ragazzi's is open 200 yards down the road?
Mm-hmm.
Well, something that I think people don't understand is Lisa Osborne does not go out and recruit restaurants to come to this town. She is here as a resource, and these large national chains will call. They have developers that are out there trying to find them new places to locate. Those developers call Lisa and say, send me your traffic count maps. Send me your rooftop count maps. I want to know what the average median household income is in your community. That is Lisa's job, is to be reactionary to people who reach out to her asking for tax abatements. The reason Olive Garden got a tax abatement, and the reason Back 40's never gotten a tax abatement in this community ever, is because Olive Garden asked for it. And by law, if they meet the requirements that is written into the Code of Alabama for tax abatements in our city code, we can't tell them no. I mean, they qualify, and unless we believe that it's a detrimental thing, like, we put a moratorium on payday lending businesses because we believe that's a public deterrence. That is bad for the general public's well-being. And so we said, no more payday lending. The ones that are here, you can stay, but no more.
How about mattress stores?
Same thing. Mattress stores are, you may not like that there are a lot of private entities that have mattress stores in this community, but the city did not recruit any of those mattress stores here. We didn't tell them to come here. We didn't give them big piles of money to come here. They are private entities that went and leased a place and started a mattress store.
It goes back to what you said earlier. We want to get to the point. The goal is to get to the point where we can say no if we want to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So now we're
hey,
good.
Olive Garden, maybe we're good. We were good 15 years ago if y'all would have came in, but now I think we're fine. We got plenty of restaurants, but we're not there yet. So I mean, so now you take what you can get.
And my point is, to some degree, the IDA was designed to be that same way too. It was supposed to be a reactionary thing where some private developer comes to us and says, "Hey, I'm representing this anonymous manufacturer, and I'm looking. Here's my requirements. I need 500 acres. It's got to have power, water, sewer. We'd like to have railroad access." And then the IDA was supposed to go back and say, okay, here are the properties we have in the community that meet those guidelines. Well, over the years, it quit working that way. When Mercedes came to Alabama, and then Hyundai, and then Kia, and then Honda, and then all Toyota, then all of a sudden it became this competitive, proactive, like we've got to go out there and recruit, that we got to go fight for these businesses. It's not us sitting here answering a phone anymore going, "It's a great day in Gadsden. How can we help you?" You know, they're going to conferences and these big conventions out in Las Vegas and building these big displays and going, "Come to Gadsden. We're the greatest. We'll, we've got all this property." So it's changed a lot is my point. But as a general rule, like you said, it is not the government's job to go out and create businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to stay away from that.
Yeah.
That's
it hasn't worked out entirely well over history in some other parts of the world.
Yes. Yeah. Now we're going into global political conversation. So we'll leave it at that. At the local level, that's all right. We're good. So let's circle back. Because I know Reba will give me what for if I don't read at least one of her comments. But City of Gadsden needs a better way of communicating things to citizens, a better and easier web page, or other means to access information. And I would say, again, from my background of being a web guy, that's kind of what I think about day in and day out is the communication. I would wholeheartedly agree. The way to fix that, though, is not necessarily easy.
Right. But it's not a user-friendly thing right
It's
now.
easier than you think it is, man. Again, when we go to these like National League of Cities conferences that people think are just us going on cheap vacations or free vacations, but when we go, and there is a little bit of that, I'll be honest with you, there's a little bit of sitting by the pool drinking a cocktail. But when you are in these classes and you're meeting with other city leaders, and then they have a big expo in there where they have all these vendors that just focus on selling goods and services to municipalities. So the companies that build the big playground parts and, we do skate parks or we do BMX tracks. Well, there's a lot, as you can imagine, a lot of software companies represented there too. Mm-hmm. And what y'all are talking about with a better way, and what Reba's talking about, a better way of communicating. Again, y'all, this is not a problem we need to solve. It's already solved. There are solutions out there that are plug and play. You go hire one of these companies, they come in, they install the software, they train the city employees on how to use it, and then they have a whole marketing strategy about how you launch it into your community and how you win the support of the community to implement it. And it's awesome. It's an app where you can report problems and upload pictures of problems into a portal. That portal routes it to the right department. Now, all of a sudden, on the back end, for somebody like me as an elected official, I can now get a report that says, hey, this problem is 8 days old. This problem's 15 days old. This problem's 500 days old, all in a simple little spreadsheet that gets emailed to you every Monday morning. And, oh, by the way, here's the person that was responsible for that project, and I'm going to follow back up with that person. And it works, and the solutions are there. We just have to do it. We just have to engage and get it implemented.
Yeah, I would say, in the beginning of this, trying to sit down and go through, and this also speaks, and I don't want to get too, hung up on all the web infrastructure around here. And it's not surprising. I've seen the same thing. It's happened in the Navy and the military. Like, everybody just kind of happened into this whole internet age on the government side without concerted plans. And that's the challenge we see here, particularly as you're looking at Etowah County as a whole, is that everybody's got their own little piece. And on the web, if it doesn't work together, I found it remarkably difficult to try and figure out what was going on around here, just in terms of who's an elected official, who's in office now, is it updated? How is this structured? Who's on the airport authority? And I mean, as folks would complain, well, citizens need to stay more involved, and well, that's a lot of work. You got to make it easier. At some point, you've got to, you got to meet in the middle of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that there are software companies and off the shelf. I mean, that's pretty much a commodity these days, and we ain't nothing new. Like running a city, computer wise, internet wise. Hey, what's going on? These are the elected. Hey, this is how you get in touch with folks.
Well, and back to your point about business licensing and the challenges with opening a new business. I mean, again, I think Tuscaloosa runs a form of this software like Huntsville does as well. I mean, you can apply for business licenses online. You can get your building permits online. You can get all of these things. One of the big frustrations for a lot of contractors here, and again, this is true in any city, if you're going to conduct business in the city, you have to get a business license. That's just that's right. The way it works in every city.
Right.
So we would have to call contractors in to work on certain projects at Back 40. And it got to the point where a lot of them wouldn't come here because we've got at the time we had a building inspector that's not there anymore, but would drive around town. And it's a small enough community to where if you saw a work truck parked in a parking lot at a business and you didn't recognize the work truck, you'd walk in there and go, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And they go, "Oh, we just drove over from Atlanta to do this piping project." Nah, you're going to have to come up here and get a business license. Well, then the contractor just goes, forget it. I'm never going back to Gadsden if I've got to get a business license every time I come there. There are creative solutions for that. If you're coming to work one job in our community, log on to the app, get a one-day $50 business license instead of a $600 annual business license. And
right.
Come in, do the job, and then leave. And so now you are fostering easier commerce in the community through software implementation.
Well, so maybe can we spend any of that $24 million on something like that? I think
that'd be a great use for it.
All right.
And again, keeping in mind that I'm one of 7 votes up there, and I can advocate. And
hey, we're counting on you. We're counting on you. Well, I mean, I'm not because I don't live in the city of Gadsden, so I don't.
Back to our whole conversation about working together over there. You don't get to throw that. I don't live here. But that's why I'm so hopeful about the next election cycle. Is what I'll say. If you have a group of people that are motivated, to do things like that, it'd be a lot easier to use those rescue funds and everything, and really pinpoint where the money needs to go.
Yeah, you can. There's a lot of those kind of things that can make life a lot easier around here. We've been going for a while now, so I just want to see if we've got any. Do you know who the current IDA members are? Not to open up a can of worms here.
I cannot recite them by name.
Okay.
I know a few of them, but I can't recite them the entire list. And again, that's another one of my frustrations that was made apparent to me during this whole process was, when I think it was during one of the court proceedings, Jonathan Welch, who's a great friend of mine. I like Jonathan, but he was representing the airport authority, the airport authority or the IDA.
He's IDA.
Yeah, he was representing.
But he's on the airport authority.
Yeah, that's where. So he was representing the IDA, and he made the comment that the IDA is a nonprofit entity, and they're not subject to open meeting acts or anything like that. And now you start to look back and go, okay, I understand why this whole thing was set up this way 20 years ago. It was in a lot of ways to avoid the Open Meetings Act or to this kind of good old boy network back in the day. I'm not accusing David or anybody of doing that. They're playing a game that's been put before them right now. So I'm happy to make arguments about being able to reform this process. But that's my point. It was designed so that nobody would really know who was on the IDA board, or nobody would really understand how their budget dollars were being spent, because I was furious when I said, you mean to tell me that we fund an organization and they won't tell us what they're doing. Like how? We give funding to a lot of entities in this community. The city of Gadsden does, be it through our own personal discretionary accounts as council people, or through budgeting it into the general fund budget. There is no agency that we are financially tethered to in any way that does not regularly come and tell us exactly what they're doing with our money, the taxpayers' dollars. And so when I found out that the IDA said, well, we're technically not a city agency, we're a nonprofit, and you don't have access to our financial statements. You don't have access to our board of directors. You're not entitled to sit in. Now, again, I've never been turned down from attending an IDA meeting. I imagine they would allow me to sit in on any of them that I wanted to, I imagine. But maybe not. They may not. I've never actually done that. So,
well, I mean, the extreme scary aspect of that, and I am by no means accusing them of this, but the potential is there with that structure that they could be getting paid by someone else. And
I want to be perfectly clear. I do not think that David Hooks is being paid by somebody else. I
don't think so either. I'm just saying, why would we have a structure where that could even be a remote possibility?
Good fences make good neighbors. Right. It's kind of like that great scene in Full Metal Jacket where at the very beginning where Powell leaves his locker unlocked, and the drill sergeant comes and he dumps his locker out on the floor and he finds the donut and he makes him eat it. But he goes, if it wasn't for jerks like you, we wouldn't have thieves in this world. If it wasn't for people like you that kept your lock unlocked, then that guy would have never had a chance to steal from you. And so in that respect, I do think that you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So Chris, with all this, the IDA talk and what's gone on the last 10 months, are you happy that you haven't been in the middle of the fire?
I go back and forth. I don't really know. A part of me wish I was there, but then another part of me is like it's a blessing in disguise for certain. Yeah, I mean, I try. I still watch them. If we can go in, I'll go in and go to city council meetings. But I do watch them every Tuesday. But yeah, it's something right now. So
yeah, it is. I think I'm hopeful and optimistic. I think it's rough. It's the perfect culmination of a whole lot of issues. The rendering plan is merely a symptom of a lot of problems. I'm glad that it involves the airport, because that's been near and dear to my heart. With the aviation background, and now all of a sudden there's a bunch of people aware of what an incredible resource we have out there, and it's created a lot of conversations. I've said it a couple of times that it kind of blows me away that, I mean, we basically have 2 talk shows now going on.
Yeah.
Right. And, hey, that's kind of, big city, right?
Well,
that's progressive.
To your point, I mean, Michael, the hat you got on right now, Coosa River Keepers. I joined the Coosa River Keeper Board in 2013. I mean, I've been trying to support the Coosa River Keepers for a long, long time. And that's the reason I said when all this happened, like, I can't be more happy that so many people have become aware of Justin and Coosa River Keepers and what they do. And they've been doing it a long time. They didn't just start 2 years ago, or they didn't see an opportunity to raise some money on a hot button issue, like some other people did with this issue. They've been doing this stuff for well over a decade, and they're a fantastic organization.
Yeah. First time I ever knew her or heard her speak was at Southside at that first meeting, and blew me away. They've got some really incredible stuff going on. I've always kind of known, they were around, and seeing them on social media and all that kind of stuff. But man, So I mean, the net result, I'm hopeful. We'll go through this whole, the 20th of August. We'll get everybody in and pitch this idea of other a development alternative. If they're hell bent on really selling that property, but we'll see. Sadly, I'm afraid that we're going to keep all this stuff is going to keep going on until the next election cycle. That just seems to be the way that this is going. And I know that a lot of people are getting really, really, really tired Some are giving up. I've definitely heard that from some folks. Just random people that are like, man, this is a done deal. This is done. We're might as well. And then you got some people that are just about to start breaking things, to be blunt. I hope we can moderate our way through the coming months. It sure would be great if we could end this rendering thing and start moving on.
Yes.
And talking about, and especially if we could get it done before, potentially you get in and have to deal with it. So
as we're sitting here arguing about this rendering plant, then other stuff's not coming here. They're looking at us like we're silly right now. Like, why would they want to come here and put something down if we can't even?
Yep.
Well, and make no mistake about it. I mean, I've been in a lot of boardrooms that I didn't have any business being in over the years, and this is how these big corporations work. They have time and money to wait you out. They don't care. They go, I'm telling you right now, Pilgrim's Pride says it. We're just going to wait them out. We'll keep slow and steady pushing forward, and in a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 3 years, but we're going to get this thing through. And that is absolutely their plan, is that everybody will just get tired of it and pack up and go home or move on to the next issue. And if you leave it out there long enough, eventually people get distracted and we'll just push it, or they think it's inevitable.
Right.
And that's when we'll just push it on through.
And I mean, of course, that's why, we have been saying, as the Advanced Etowah group, the evil opposition group, whatever you want to call us, the Facebook mob, the point is, this is a local issue. I mean, at this point, it is a local issue, and Pilgrim's Pride is actually irrelevant in this whole problem, and it can be fixed like that. It can go away, unfortunately, it's not. There's tons of argument about that it's not a real group of people, that it's really not that many people in the community that are against it. I'm not really sure, what businesses you're driving by, what signs you're not reading. I get it. If you're not on social media, you may not, you may not understand that, but just the folks I've talked to, people are like, this has really kind of been the craziest thing since the civil rights movement, going on in Etowah County. And I don't think, folks have said that lightly. It's crazy. It's cool to see that there are a lot of people paying attention. My fear is that the attention will dwindle, we can't go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
We gotta keep moving forward, and paying attention. And certainly appreciate you guys coming on and being willing to talk, as a candidate coming in, sharing some ideas. My goal with a lot of this is to try to make it as easy as possible for people to have these conversations, to listen as moderately as we can. I've been impressed in the whole opposition group, getting this many people with this many, passionate discussions. They've really been fairly moderate for 2021 America. We had some, we definitely got some folks that go high and right and, say some inappropriate things, but I don't know how you feel about, you guys and what you're reading in the comments. And I mean, we try to moderate that as much as we possibly can, but all in all, I've been fairly impressed.
Look,
I'm
a big boy, and I prescribe to the whole "this is what you signed up for" thing. I can take it on the chin. There's only been one instance where I felt unsafe, and that was actually during the Black Lives Matter protests. I got an email where somebody said they were going to blow my brains out. It was an anonymous email, blah, blah, blah. That's the only one that's ever said I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
I can take probably the two or the one statement that I dislike the most when I'm out in public is, now listen, I don't want to talk about politics with you, but because that means for the next hour while my wife and I are eating dinner, you're going to stand by the table and we're going to talk politics. But again, stuff like that, I'm fine with. That's what you signed up for, But I do think that by and large, we came out of the gate pretty hot there. but I think by and large it's settled into a very reasonable and calculated fight is what it is. But it's a fight for the future of this community for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've been blown away. I mean, it's just one more thing that encourages me about the people of Etowah County, and it reinforces that idea. We're really all just neighbors. Yeah, we got a lot of different viewpoints. In separate parts of communities. I know somebody was throwing in there, don't forget about Alabama City, and just consider East Gadsden. So I don't know if that's a pointed say. I don't really know the whole background of the whole Alabama City versus East Gadsden.
Alabama City has.
So I'm learning through this. So it's kind of fun for me.
Obviously, Alabama City was the heartbeat that was driven by the steel plant. I mean, you had Wall Street there. It was that entire community developed around that steel plant. And as soon as the steel plant closed, Alabama City started to deteriorate, and the services started to deteriorate over there. The quality of life started to deteriorate over there. But there are some exciting things happening over there. I mean, just since I've been a councilman, we built a new police precinct over there. We rehabbed the old elementary school there and built the Boys and Girls Club. We moved the SPAN education system over there. We've invested heavily in the theater of Gadsden there at the Ritz Theater to restore that property. Where everybody screamed, "We got to have a grocery store! We got to have a grocery store! We got a grocery store over there!" And so there are things that they're not all easy. Again, I can't come in there and wave a wand and turn Wall Street into Pleasantville overnight, but we can try to slowly and systematically do things that are going to make that better over there. But some of that stuff, and this isn't a very popular opinion as an elected official, but some of that stuff also falls squarely on the citizens' shoulders. Quit throwing trash on the road. You know, when the Public Works tells you 15 times, when you cut debris down in your yard, please don't throw it on the street, throw it in your grass, so that when it rains, all that debris doesn't go clog up all of our storm drains and create flooding. You know, so some of that, it's got to be a two-way street with the citizens. But I will not forget about Alabama City, even though it's not my district.
Well,
and it's split. Alabama City's District 7's got a little bit of Alabama City along with District 6. But when I was down there campaigning the last two times, it was, people were just wanting, the lights fixed, the street lights fixed, more police patrol coming through. They would point and say, "I love my house. Look, this is my neighbor, blah, blah, blah. But look at that house over there. They're doing, stuff in there shouldn't be going on. We just need a little help." And I'm sure Mr. Reed heard the same things I heard, and that's all they want. They're not asking for too much over there. They just want to keep the gutters clean and the lights on and some police pulling through and just, help us out a little bit.
Well, that's probably a whole episode in of itself, talking about police and fire. I had no idea of the pay issues, and not trying to point fingers and all that kind of stuff and get into it. But that's definitely something that seems like an issue around here.
Well, and again, that's something that I think everybody, I like to make sure everybody understands too, kind of like what I was talking about with this whole idea of municipal government. That knot got tied up a long time ago. Yep. It was 25 years ago that the police department negotiated a collective bargaining agreement with the city, and they chose certain benefits over certain pay grades. And so a lot of this, we've got a civil service board. We're the only communities in Alabama that still has a civil service board. So there's a lot to unpack there to get back to, hey, we got to pay our police and firemen more. There's contracts involved between those entities, and they negotiate those contracts.
Yep.
And so it's going to take a while to navigate all those things, but we'll get there.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've
been able to give police and fire a raise every year that I've been an elected official. Now, maybe not as much as everybody wants, but every year we're tacking on to it.
Well, and I bring that up just because that's definitely something that seems like it needs to be on the front of everybody's mind as we go through this election cycle. So, again, I got friends that are firefighters and cops, and like I've got a friend that's a firefighter, lives in the same neighborhood as I do in Rainbow City, and he works up in Huntsville.
Yeah, and
I've always come like, why would you drive all the way up there? And he said, "Well, I actually tried to get a job down here, and it was a $18,000 pay cut."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now I know why you drive up there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, I mean, that's not an easy, all of it there's a lot of stuff that you've got to go through. And unfortunately, government can be slow in fixing some things. But one thing, while you were talking about the debris in the road, one thing I kind of long for is a city council meeting that doesn't talk about picking up trash.
Sure.
Sure. Like bigger level conversation than, but I mean, I guess that's the point we're at in our community.
And I hate to sound like I'm just taking everybody to school on civil government, but
we've all been doing that for the last 10 months.
But it's important to understand those city council meetings, although they have been elevated to this interaction with citizens, those are supposed to be a very mundane formality and the law requires us to be open so that the public can observe the city doing business.
Right.
City council people don't sit around and go, what are we going to put on the agenda this week? We have laws that determine what comes before us and when it comes before us and how it comes before us. And so when we're sitting there going through a bunch of nuisance abatements, it's not because we all spent the last week in our car going out there finding houses that we wanted to talk about. It's because somebody started a process with the building department. That process has reached the point where now it requires city council approval to move forward. And so we come in and there's the agenda. The agenda is set based on, now obviously the council can introduce ordinances and resolutions as they so choose, but the overwhelming majority of all that stuff, you're not really supposed to see it. It's just ho-hum, daily business stuff, approval of the minutes, whatever.
Yep.
And so a lot of people want it to be this interactive forum. And I agree, we need to have more interactive forums in this community. But the city council meeting is not necessarily designed to be that. We should have another meeting right after that or right before that where it's a truly interactive, conversation with the community. But the city council meeting per se is really an administrative formality that is open for observation of the public. It's not really meant to be, the forum.
Well, I think we've been going long enough, I guess I would close with, so where, as we talk about the election cycle coming up, where do folks need to go to follow? How can they see what you're talking about and what you're thinking about as you
I have
run?
the same Facebook page up out there since day one. I mean, it's up and it's running. It's been running. I don't post too many things on it. Occasionally, the city guys will post something, and I'll kind of put that out there just to inform people, let people, just kind of carry on the conversation. But as far as that, it's just that. And I mean, we're August the 9th today. What's it, the 9th? I mean, we're a year away from being a couple of weeks away from the election. So it'll all happen fairly quick.
Well, follow his personal page on Facebook, Chris Robinson, and you can follow his election page, Chris Robinson, District 7.
Yes, it
did. All right. And have you made any big announcements on what you're doing come?
So 4 years ago when I was sitting on the back porch at Chris Robinson's house and he said, Jason, you got to run. And I said, or 5 years ago, whenever it was. And I said, I don't think I'm going to do it. And he said, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. And so I did. And he couldn't get to the finish line in the last one. And it's funny. He said, 46 votes, man, 46 votes. I said, no, Chris, it's 23 votes because all you had to do was get half of those people to vote for you instead of him, and that counts twice, so it was actually closer than that. So long story short, I don't really have any interest in going through 4 more years of what I've gone through so far. It's just not been very productive or rewarding for me, to be honest with you. I'm happy to be able to help people fix small problems and stuff, but I like to swing for the fence a little more, and I haven't really felt like I had the opportunity to be a part of that over the last 3 years because of all the series of comedy of errors. But with Chris running, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to win that seat this election, and depending on who the mayoral candidates that emerge are, I'm excited about working with a fresh council. So, yeah, I mean, right now, if you ask me, I'm going to run again, and I'm going to try to recruit a couple more really energetic people to fill some of these potential openings on the council seat, and encourage some of my friends to get out there and run for mayor. And I think if we put the right people in the right seats, we can do something really fun here.
Yeah, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So, I'm excited, I guess, about the politics discussions over the next 12 months. It is what it is, and I guess somebody's got to talk about it. And I just hope that the whole community can hang in there and pay attention, and ask the right questions, listen for the right things, not just listen for a name, or go with the A at the top of the list,
I
or
always
the
thought that was one of my best taglines in my campaign because I'm a Wilson. That's a big deal in politics when you got your name starts with a W, because so many people either vote straight party line ticket, so they
right.
never even look at the names, or if they do look at the ballot, they're going to see a name they recognize before they get all the way down to Wilson. So my buddy David Karn, who's a nut, he's actually our attorney at Back 40. He came up with vote Jason Wilson, the top choice at the bottom of the ballot.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's.
We had a lot of fun with
I
that.
think we're gonna. My hope is that we'll have about the most educated or informed electorate that Etowah County's ever seen as we roll into next August.
I agree with that 100%.
And that's going to be cool to see. It's going to be cool to see folks that are running that get out there and engage with people and talk and get feedback, because I mean that's ultimately what I think people are extremely frustrated about, is that feeling that, well, nobody's listening, or at least those that are in power and have majority votes aren't listening to me, and I know that's that can be tough to handle. So
I'm looking forward to the campaign circuit too. I'm jonesing for some cold hot dogs and RC colas at the Kiwanis Pavilion. So whenever you get that first meet and greet going, Chris, I'll be there.
all right, well, guys, thank you all for hanging in. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And sorry if we didn't cover the topic that you wanted to dive into, occupational tax, and we got months to go through all that kind of stuff. But guys, again, 20th of August, we need you to come on out to the venue and hear the community plan. You're going to see a lot of that being posted and a lot of those discussions around. So next Saturday or next Monday, probably about the same time, we've got the industrial oligarchs. David Chadwick's going to come on here, and a couple of the other major company owners, business guys that are involved in this project. And we're going to have kind of a similar conversation about what they've seen. Of course, they've all been doing this about twice as long as all the rest of everybody else, and so I'm excited. I think that's going to be really fun conversation. So hope you can join us then. But yeah, the 20th of August, 12 o'clock, the venue. Yeah, lots of discussions on what's going to happen with COVID protocols and all that kind of stuff. But you can at least come park out in the parking lot, and we'll get it all streamed live, and you can see our presentation, Pilgrim's Pride's presentation, and see what the airport authority. I think when we do the math, you're down to about 3 people that should probably actually be, maybe 2 on the airport authority, that should actually be the ones making the decision. Everybody else should be recusing themselves for one reason or another. So lots of interesting stuff over the next couple of weeks. So please, again, pay attention. I know it's a struggle, but I appreciate the level of effort that everybody's been putting in so far. So y'all have a good night. We'll